So see here, that's what is given. So when the power is going to be 50%, I'll be considering the voltage to be 1 by root 2. And if I draw that straight line, I'll be having two frequencies, F1 and F2. F2 minus F1 is going to be called as the bandwidth of my device. Okay, F2 minus F1 is called as the bandwidth of the device. So from the frequency response graph, I can measure two things. One is gain, second one is bandwidth. The gain is the maximum gain what you get, or the maximum value of gain in the graph where the graph is going to be flat, the top portion of the graph. So that is going to be the maximum gain. And how will you find the bandwidth? You take half of the maximum value, or 1 by root 2 times the voltage value, and draw a line that is going to intersect my graph at 2 points, F1 and F2. F2 minus F1 is going to be called as the bandwidth of the amplifier. In any amplifier, two important parameters are gain and bandwidth. And interestingly, gain is always proportional to 1 by bandwidth. So if the gain of an amplifier is very high, the bandwidth will be less. If the bandwidth is very high, the gain will be less. You can never have an amplifier with a very high bandwidth, very high gain, or a very low gain and a very low bandwidth. Always bandwidth and gain are inversely related. So application வரும்போது you have to compromise either or gain, or you have to compromise either on bandwidth for the application. If in an application, if gain is an important parameter, don't worry about bandwidth. If bandwidth is an important parameter, don't worry about gain. If you have to compromise between both, you have to choose an approximate optimum value which will be suitable for gain as well as bandwidth. So always remember, gain and bandwidth are inversely related. So for any amplifier which is having a very high gain, the bandwidth tends to be low. Or for any amplifier having a very high bandwidth, the gain tends to be minimum. So you cannot have both the quantities to be maximum or both the quantities to be minimum.